What's up, guys? It's Parallax Abstraction, and welcome to PXA Peeks at Flinthook. This comes from sort of a tiny little Canadian team in Montreal, Canada represent, called Tribute, and they've actually put out quite a number of titles for having been around for only about 6 years now. A lot of people will remember them for Wizorb, which was kind of their original cult hit. They also put out Mercenary Kings, which is a game I kickstarted back in the day, which kind of didn't really do it for me. They also put out Ninja Senki DX, which is a little sort of smaller platform game that I quite enjoy. And now we've got this sucker. This kind of came out of nowhere, at least for me, and I've been really enjoying this. It is another roguelite. Yeah, there's no shortage of those lately. But once again, this is one that has some pretty cool ideas and very interesting mechanics behind it that, once again, make it stand out. And as you can see here, the Tribute guys, I believe their name Tribute comes from the fact that their games are supposed to be modeled after as tributes for sort of old genres and old styles from games of the past, and these guys are masters at both pixel art and sort of retro chiptune style music, and this game has both in spades. I mean, the length of this intro and how detailed it is really impressive. They've got some killer artists on their team. You know, a lot of people can do pixel art, not a lot of people can do it well, and these guys definitely can. And well, I'm going to skip the rest of this because it is a long intro. As good as it is, it is a bit long. So, yeah, so as I said, this is a roguelite, which means that you do play it in runs, but you can unlock a number of different things that persist between runs, which usually will make subsequent ones a little easier going forward. That's kind of the shtick here. Some people like that, some people don't. I actually think roguelites can be really good if they're done and balanced well, and if they can maintain the challenge while also making you feel like you're getting some persistent progression, and this one most certainly does. So there is a story and lore to this. I don't really know what it is. It's explained sort of very slowly, but the idea is you are a space pirate and you're trying to rescue something. You kind of saw it in the intro there. I'm not really sure what it is exactly, but as you can see, there's a ton of lore items I haven't found yet. This game is no slouch on the difficulty, let me tell you what. So there are a different sort of bosses or sort of major pirate enemies that you're going to be encountering here. I've only beaten the first one, which was this guy here, and it took me a long friggin' time to do that. I've been playing this for over 3 hours, and just to beat this one guy, and I came close a few times. And the idea is that you jump into an area. Oh yes, you get this as well because I leveled up. We'll get into this stuff later. So you have to take out a certain amount of smaller pirate ships here, and you can choose between them, and you see there's ones that have, you can see in the bottom left there of each of these cards is a difficulty rating, and higher difficulty ratings typically result in better loot. With each one of these you get a gem for what's called your space compass, which is that little thing he's holding, the little box that has a weird little slime thing in it. Yeah, it's a little strange. And in order to get to the boss of this world, I need 4 of them. In the last world, I only needed 3 of them. And that's the way your run works. Those things only persist within a run. So you have to make sure that you manage to complete 4 levels and take out the boss. If not, you have to do that section again. Now, because I've beaten the first boss, I can go back and do those sets of levels and fight that boss again if I so desire, mostly for the purposes of getting loot and experience to make future battles easier. But now that I've beaten him once, I don't have to beat him again. So it's another way in which this is very much a roguelite. But like I said, it took me a long time to beat that first guy. I'm not even sure how many bosses there are, but this is a game that I think you could put quite a number of hours into to get to the end if you wanted to. There's definitely a lot of value here for it. It's only $15 US. It is out on the PC, the PS4, and I think the Xbox One as well, though I'm not sure. It'll be in the video title if it is out there. So there's a lot of options for it. So the way you're seeing this here is kind of how it works. So now the levels are randomly generated in the sense that all of these rooms are pre-designed, but the order in which you will face them is different each time. So, okay, so here's sort of a storeroom. So this is actually a gambling guy. So in a lot of these rooms, in a lot of these levels, there's stores that you can get. Nice. I got that. This guy's a gambler, so basically you spend a certain amount of money to get something from him, but it's random, and it could be good or it could be a cursed item as well. So there are permanent items that you can get, but you can also find some of the relics and items that give you power-ups within one particular run, and use them for just that run, even if you don't have them permanently equipped. A lot of what you get from what's called the black market, which is the shop in this game where you spend one of the multiple kinds of currencies it has, are you basically unlock the ability to encounter certain types of upgrades and buffs in the world rather than unlocking them and being able to just use them permanently. There's actually a lot of depth to how you can upgrade in this game. So there's coins here, which you see me collecting off of fallen enemies and within the levels and stuff. So those are only for this run. So if I run into a shop in this run, I can pick up coins from enemies that I can use within this, but I lose that at the end of the run. But there's also a more permanent form of currency that you can pick up by completing levels and whatnot, and that's what allows you to do permanent unlocks. But you're sort of seeing the core mechanics here. I wanted to, before I started explaining the mechanics, I wanted you guys to see what it is, because this is what really makes this game stand out from the pack, is this sort of persistent, not persistent, but this very interesting sort of ability you have for traversal. So, you know, you're swinging around with the Flinthook, as you can see. So your main goal is to get around the levels as quickly as possible. And to do that, you can swing between different things here. This is also how you avoid enemies. And the way the levels are laid out is that you'll encounter different rooms, some of which are sort of platforming challenges, some of which just have stores in them, and some of them like this. Any one where a siren like that goes off when you come in is a room with enemies. So there are a number of different enemies that have different amounts of health, different types of weapons, and attack in different ways. You're sort of seeing a few here in this room. And when you enter a combat challenge room, the idea is that there will be a certain amount of waves of enemies for you to get through. Sometimes it can just be like sometimes it can just be like 3, sometimes it can be more than that, but when you complete them, it always drops a chest, which gives you a bunch more enemies, a little bit of health, and a secondary weapon that you can pick up. So you can only carry one of these items at a time, but they do different things. So that's the snow globe, which, as you can see, freezes the world for a little while, and this is a bomb, which, well, pretty obvious, right? And there's additional ones besides that you can pick up and use, which is nice. I find myself never using the secondary weapons nearly enough. I should use them more often. And before you choose to start a level, you will see, and we'll see that once we get through here, but there are little descriptors for each level. Some are more combat heavy than others, some are more platforming heavy than others, and you can sort of choose which way you want to go. The combat is definitely what will hold the greatest rewards. Completing combat encounters is how you get more health. Thankfully, this game is not super stingy with health, though it is a little bit, and that's where you'll stand to get more gold and other things like that. So we're at the end of the level here. The big chest is the end of the level. I can choose to go back and explore every room if I want to get the majority of the loot, but we're just going to move on here. You don't have to if you want. So there you go. So you get a bunch of loot from there. You have a space shell, which gives you your loot for the level. So that green currency there is the sort of permanent stuff that allows you to unlock big unlocks. So you see we fed a gem to our space compass. He needs 3 more. Also, I love how he boards ships by just shooting a big-ass anchor into them. I think that's pretty awesome. So, and you just whistle for your ship and it shows up. So that place is toast. We out. And here we go. And we're back here and we can pick our next target. So you see here, Gamblinger, that was the guy that I dealt with. So platoon on board. Asphyxia, I believe, means the air is poisonous, so you have to move quickly. Platoon means there's more enemies. Battalion means there's even more enemies. So those are my only. So it's either that or another Gamblinger place. So let's try the platoon one, and we'll go in and try to do that. And you progress on like this until you get to the boss. You take out the boss if you can, and then you move on to the next world. So yeah, that's sort of the core loop, but what really makes this cool is this transition. Why do I keep saying transition? Is this movements mechanic. The fact that you sort of leap around like this, and you can move very, very quickly, and if you're good at this, you can really pull off some pretty impressive acrobatic feats. and it requires some practice, but it's fairly easy to learn. Now, I am playing this with an Xbox One controller. This game actually does have full keyboard and mouse support, but in the email where Tribute sent me the review code, they actually specifically said, please cover the game using a controller because keyboard and mouse movement is still being tweaked. Now, I tried it with a keyboard and mouse, and it actually works not bad, but it's definitely less precise. You do have much more fluid, damn it. You do have much more fluid motion with the controller. I find it's much easier to pinpoint a target that you need. So your mileage may vary on that. If you are on the PC, keyboard and mouse is definitely a viability, though you might find it getting a little more challenging for you and not always doing what you want. They claim that they are tweaking that, and it looks like they hope to have that sort of ironed out a little more going forward. So I hope so, because it would be nice to do that. Because the thing with this is, this game, because it is 2D, it will run on just about anything. I actually one night, well, this didn't actually happen, but just for the sake of testing, I will tell you that I know it's possible. I was able to play a little bit of this on my work computer at the office, which actually just has Intel integrated graphics, and it ran just as well as it runs here. I mean, that didn't actually happen, but I also know it worked. Never mind. So yeah, so this can run on low-end stuff, so being able to use it with a keyboard and mouse when you maybe don't always have a controller handy is certainly a good thing. So I do hope they can tweak that up. You know, you are rather limited on graphics options as well. The one thing that I really wish this had was a VSync option. It doesn't have that, and I don't know if it's coming across in the video, but at least on my 144Hz monitor, I'm getting some pretty wicked screen tearing at times. I could probably force it in the NVIDIA drivers, but I haven't bothered to try yet. It would just be nice if they had a VSync option for people who have that concern. So here we go, Bounce Blast. So this is a card here. So this is an upgrade I could sometimes equip if I wanted to, but because I grabbed it out of this chest, I now have it available to me for this run, but it won't be there next time. So, but you can see it makes the balls bounce around. That's actually really handy for dealing with enemies in tight quarters, so I like that. The only other thing I will say with the movement that can get a little... Whoa. That was neat. I've never seen that before. The only thing I found with the movement that can get a little frustrating sometimes, too, is because you also traverse through doors, kind of like Metroid style, by actually hooking into them, I have run into issues... Sure, we'll take that. 5 to my hit points. Yeah, I'll take that. The one thing is that sometimes when you're trying to rapidly traverse around a room, you'll find yourself accidentally hooking into a door and traveling out of the room when you didn't mean to. I've had that happen sometimes, not a ton, but it does happen more than I'd like. I know why that they have the traversal set up that way, and to be honest with you, I'm kind of not sure what you could do to fix that, other than say, hey, you know, practice more and be careful with it. But that is a bit of an issue, and something that I have found to be a point of frustration at times. So that does get to be a bit of a thing. Oh, jeez. So those sort of electric orb ball things are something that's new in this second world here, and they have the ability to not only hurt you, but to disrupt your ability to fire your gun, which is really rough. And I died. Well, crap. That'll happen a lot. So here we go. So it sort of tallies up everything you got, and there is progression in this. You can get what's called booster packs when you level up. I know a lot of that sounds kind of a little free-to-play. This is not a free-to-play game. It is $15, and there is no ability to buy additional currency. So it does have unlocks, free-to-play style unlocks and things like that, but definitely nothing that it's going to ask you to spend money on. So, so you can see here are the different relics that I've picked up so far. This mysterious square is sure to be filled with the secrets, but we have not deciphered it yet. Kings and queens use them as coasters. I like that. So as you can see, there's a lot to this. There's definitely a lot that you can get. There's no shortage of content in this. Of course, being a roguelike, it does have daily and weekly challenges as well. I did the daily already. So there's additional challenges you can get for more abilities to level up. So the black market, this is where you can buy additional stuff. So you have the ability to buy more perk abilities, more perks themselves, more ability to actually level up on your stuff. Get more XP depending on your grade. I actually am not 100% sure what that is. guess you don't really need a shaving kit, but it gives you more XP, I swear. So I'll do that. So there's actually a lot of ways you can customize your character in this, which is what I really like. So you see up at the top there where it says choose your perks. So you have a perk bar, and you can sort of see here everything that we have going on here. I've unlocked quite a bit so far because I've been playing for quite a bit. And you can equip and unequip stuff as you want, and as you see, it fills up the bar there. Everything has a value. And you can just add stuff in. You want to try to use every perk that you can, obviously, because you're kind of leaving money on the table if you don't do that. But stuff can get pretty expensive, and you can buy additional perk slots as you go, but they continue to get more expensive. So hitting yourself up to 100% here is going to be pretty difficult. But there's a lot of different options. If you look at these descriptions here, there's a lot of different things you can do and abilities you can unlock. There's a lot of ways to customize your character to your play style. And you can change, you know, if you want to try something else, you can experiment, and you can sort of play the game the way you want or the way you're best at, which I really like. Maybe the ability to save custom loadouts so that you could switch back and forth between them would have been cool. Hasn't really been an issue for me, but for people who like to mix things up a little bit, that would have been pretty cool. And you sort of go from there, and your goal is to get to the end. So the closest thing that this is might remind a lot of people of in terms of progression and whatnot is something like Rogue Legacy. Certainly not a bad thing. I'm guessing that was a big source of inspiration for Tribute when they made this. Rogue Legacy is awesome. I have never come close to beating it, but it's a really, really good game that has those elements of permanent progression that you can take advantage of if you want. You know, I like both roguelikes and roguelites. I find there's a lot of value in both different methods of play. Some people really do like the ultra hardcore. The really ultra hardcore challenge of a roguelike, a true roguelike that has no persistence to it. I can certainly appreciate that, but in this day and age, a lot of gamers like to feel that they are making iterative progress towards a goal, and they like having the means to go, okay, yeah, I do have to do this in runs, and I don't mind doing the runs over again when I fail, but it would be nice to know that I'm getting a little something for it, and that maybe, you know, the time I put into it is getting a little easier over time. I personally don't have an issue with that, but that's definitely the kind of game this is. So if you just want the pure hardcoreness, not going to fault you for that at all, but yeah, you may want something more like, well, Riptail, actually, which was the last game I covered, which is much more of that type of nature. But I've been having a lot of fun with this. The only thing I kind of also wish they could have done differently is made it so that they could either have preloaded the level or given a different transition between the different screens other than a load screen. I find that's a little bit immersion breaking. If they could have done, you know, a Metroid style thing where it just scrolls or something like that, that would have been nice. But, you know, when you change to a screen and you have to get that, which I assume is attempting to hide a load. I mean, this is not a big game. It's only a couple hundred megs on PC, so, and especially with an SSD like I have, it's basically not loading at all. But maybe that hides things on console a little bit. A little bit of gold never gets old. I don't know what that is. This is a whole new type of room. I've never seen this before. I don't know what I just picked up there, but I don't know if it gave me free gold or is giving me greater chances to get gold. I don't know. Huh. Very interesting. And this does have the sort of sense of discovery that you get out of roguelikes, right? That's pretty cool. Also, here's something I haven't been using to this point because I suck. If you hold down the left trigger, you actually do have a time slowdown option. And so there's some environmental hazards. There's some things like lasers in that will hurt you. These things don't. These just bounce you around. But you have to slow down time in order to get through them. So if you want to get through that, you can slow down time, pop through, and there you go. You can use the time slowdown to slow down enemy shots as well, though because it also does, it slows you down too, but not as much as the rest of the world. So you definitely can use it to dodge enemy shots in that, but I have found that it's not always good for that. If I was using that more in that first boss fight, truth be told, it probably wouldn't have been nearly as big a pain in the butt for me. Oh god. This is... Okay, so I use my freeze time there. Dang it. So yeah, those purple things that come out, those actually can't be killed, and they will follow you around, so they can really sort of nag and troll you as you go. So there we go. So time was only 3 minutes 27 seconds. This is how it goes, though. You're gonna die a lot in this game, and that's the way, you know, that's the way these things always work, right? So you gotta be cognizant of that. But let's just switch into the weekly challenge mode here, and I'll just sort of show you guys how this goes. There is leaderboards for the challenges, of course, which is always nice. Haunted Chamber, Tiptonius Jones, Tip Salon, and the Gambling Juror. This will be interesting. So, yeah, I've been really enjoying this. You know, the time I've spent playing it for research has not felt like work, that's for sure. I've been having a really good time with it. It's, again, it's a roguelite. There are a million of those these days, and, you know, seeking out the best ones is sometimes not the easiest thing. Oh, yeah, so here's a guy here. There's guys you can talk to as well. They don't really give you much of value, but they have cool characters in here. But yeah, overall, I really like this. I love this hook shot mechanic of leaping around. You've seen this kind of thing in some games before, but it's never really been implemented this way. And I really like the way that they went about it. It feels very fast and fluid. There have been some complaints in the Steam reviews that it's not precise enough, and that a lot of people have said, that this mechanic is good, but its lack of precision has gotten me killed several times, and it really ticks me off. The only issue I have had is when it hooks you into a door that you don't mean to, and that is frustrating. But the thing is, you can go back and forth between rooms, and you generally don't lose anything. Like if there's a room, for example, where you cleaned out a combat challenge and it drops a chest, and you accidentally hook into the next room, the chest doesn't disappear, so it doesn't punish you in a mean way for that. So this was a different kind of combat challenge. You saw that 2 of the enemies had those bubbles around them. So there's 2 kinds of bubbles. The gray ones means that you have to flint hook them to pop the bubble before you can hit them. The red ones means that you have to kill every enemy who does not have a bubble around them for the bubble to disappear. So it's a little bit of a spin on that, and it can get tricky sometimes. But I've sort of given you an idea. There's more enemies here that you haven't seen, but you kind of get the idea here. Most of the enemies, they just have a set attack pattern. They're fairly straightforward. It's nothing overly complicated, but... Oh, the fighting bell. This is a temporary invincibility thing, if I recall correctly. So a lot of the enemies don't have a... they have a persistent attack pattern. You know, they're not necessarily... A lot of them are static. They're not necessarily that smart, but that's kind of the idea. You're in these sort of small, tight, claustrophobic environments, and the idea is that you want to know how all the enemies... play out and what their different methods are, so that you can strategize for that. So I actually like that. I think that's sort of a good way to approach it. You know, if you want like Halo-like enemy AI, that's not what you're going to get out of this, but that's not really what they're going for either. But yeah, I like the traversal. I really love the art style. Tribute just has some of the best pixel artists in the biz, honestly. You know, pixel art is not an uncommon thing, and making something where I can say, wow, this really stands out is something else, because there's a lot of pixel art out there, and frankly, a lot of really good pixel art out there. And these guys are top of their class. There's no doubt about that. The music, I think, is very good. It is a little repetitive to the point where it can get a little earwormy sometimes. I've had, like, the menu music in this game badly stuck in my head sometimes. That may just be my problem, but just be warned about that. That can get to you a little bit, potentially. And, yeah, sometimes... some of the level layouts can be harder than others. You know, some runs can be worse than other runs in terms of the level of difficulty. And the bosses are not easy. They are definitely not easy. And a lot of the time you'll find yourself doing really well only to have a run ended very suddenly because, you know, you got a little greedy, or you roped into the wrong enemy at the wrong time and you kind of got screwed. But that's how this genre is, right? And one thing I really love about Tribute is the fact that they definitely don't play it safe. Every one of their games that they have come out with, and, you know, some have hit better than others. You know, I was definitely not the only person who was a little bit disappointed in Mercenary Kings. But you know, Wizorb was considered very good. Ninja Senki has a kind of a nice little following, things like that. And every one of these games is incredibly different from each other. These guys are not playing it safe and sticking to one genre. They are not just trying to sequelize something that's worked. Everything they make is very different. And there's very few developers that can pull that off and do it well. And these guys certainly have. They're a very talented team, there's no doubt. And the quality of the games that they put out from a production value perspective, and indeed from just the amount of content that's in here for a team that's like, I forget how many it is, but I think it's under 10 people. is really something, and that they've been cranking out these games fairly quick. Like, it wasn't that long ago that Mercenary Kings came out. I think it was only a couple of years, and they've done like 2 games since then plus this. So these guys clearly have some chops. And yeah, the main thing with this is that you need to like a game is much focused, not just that's focused, while it does have combat in it, it's primarily focused around traversal and, you know, traversing the environment very quickly, and that needs you to multitask. When you're in a combat scenario, you need to be, you don't really want to stand still. You want to hop around and do different things at the same time, and you have to be very cognizant of that. And this is a gameplay style that I don't think is going to appeal to everyone, but I think this is awesome. It's unique. There's really nothing else like this, particularly in the roguelike genre. And it's very well executed, and they got the fluid motion down, and they made something that's very, very challenging, but is very satisfying when you pull it off and you master its systems. And yeah, if you're someone for whom the traditional roguelike is just a little too hardcore, then this is a nice mix. It gives you that challenge and replayability, but it gives you a certain number of permanent upgrades that you can utilize that will make things a little easier and make you feel like you're always accomplishing something, even with each failure. It makes you feel like you're getting towards a better goal in the end, which is always nice. So yeah, that is Flinthook. It is $15 US. It is out on the PC, the PlayStation 4. I believe it's PC, Mac, and Linux. I could be wrong about that too. It is out on the PS4, and I think it's on the Xbox One as well. But like I said, the video title will confirm that. This would also be a great game on the Switch, or even on the Vita. This would be something I'd love to have in a portable on-the-go form for sure, with some cloud saving and whatnot. But it also will run on the PC version. Will run on just about anything. So if you've got a laptop with just integrated graphics, or you know, a work computer, not that I ever did that, that you would want to play it on, you can do that too. This is a game that doesn't require a high-end computer, but can still give a very good experience regardless, which is always nice. So yeah, I've been having a great time with this, and if it looks appealing to you, I definitely recommend it. Tribute, you know, they don't always hit, but when they hit real good, and I think they definitely did here.